Hi everyone and welcome to the studio. Today in the Friday Quick Fix I want to talk to you all about finding your own painting style. Now we have tons of tutorials on the channel and we do paintings in loose and detailed and all sorts of different styles, but of course it's all about you, your creative confidence and what you want from your own paintings. So today I've got a really simple quick exercise to help you get there and find your own style. So grab your paints and let's get started. Searching for your style is a really useful exercise to do every now and then when you're feeling a little bit stuck in a rut with creating and painting. Now I've taken from the garden one of our lovely flowers from sort of echinacea variety, and it's going to be a really useful sort of simple base that we can try lots of different variations on. So finding your style, what does that mean? Well, you know from watching my tutorials that sometimes I paint very precisely and exactly, take lots of time over lots of detail. Sometimes I paint quite loosely. Sometimes I paint line and wash, which is when you do a wash of colour and do some reverse colouring with some line drawing over the top. Those are three things I like to do, and those have all come from playing around with different kit or different tools in my kit. And so for example, you could try painting the same flower using different brushes, using a small brush, using a large pointed round, using different shapes. So let's just have a go, shall we? So I am going to just have a bit of fun painting this yellow petal flower. So large brush gives me lovely sort of smooth and one stroke brushes, which is pretty cool. I've got to stick with this large brush, so this means that suddenly my detail might be a little bit limited, but I quite like that whole approach. And then kind of leads me to be a bit flippant and loose with it. Trying it with a small brush, well, suddenly I haven't got the ability to put lots of broad petals in, but what I like about this is we get the effect of the ridges. Whoops, little drop of water there. Been doing that a lot today. We get the ridges in the petals, but also in painting with this brush I'm having to go a bit more slowly, so it's making me a bit more thoughtful with my painting and feeling very differently to how I painted the one previously. It also means I can capture the texture of the stem with those ridges. So you might be the kind of person who prefers just that slightly more detailed approach, and of course with the small brush you could always go back in there and paint even more layers of detail. Let's try the one stroke brush. This is going to give us a slightly more sort of stylized approach, which I quite like it when I have to work a little bit harder with my petals. And what if I did it with a large brush, filbert brush here, while you're just taking the sort of lovely petal shape to another level. But you're losing the control, but I quite like that too. Either you would let these dry or you'd carry on with the loose approach. So those are two choices as well. I just put my flower in here because it was getting in the way. So back up there. What about just, I kind of like that with a blob. And then what can I do with this brush here? So I've stuck with the same brush. Oh, that's fun. See, that's really cool. I like that a lot. And I don't know if I would have found to do that because this seems like an awkward brush to do this kind of painting with. Okay, so we've looked at how different brushes might affect our style. And it's funny, I never would have thought, but I really like that. So that's going to give me food for thought in future. The next thing, what about the colours? Do you go for a naturalistic palette like we've done here? Or do we go for something, you know, we might sort of start off with the yellows, but then you go, well, actually, I really want to try something a little bit more sort of moody, stylized. And for this, you know, you can pick up any brush you want, use any tool you want. This is just all about experimenting actually with colours and going a little bit abstract. You might be the kind of person who sees the world a bit differently, sees different colours, or just really enjoys taking a familiar shape and subverting it. The next way, well, we've looked at a little bit detailed versus a little bit loose, but taking that to a whole other level, going really quite accurate. So you might be the kind of person who wants to draw your flower, get your central dome in, and then even give yourself every bit, every guide, and really follow that very truly. So the detailed approach obviously takes quite a bit more time, hence why I've painted most of it off camera. But I mean, I do really love sort of losing myself in the detail of a flower, but then sometimes you just, you know, it's not necessarily what you want it for. So it's not like you pick a style and you stick with it. It's more about finding what comes naturally to you and then deciding whether there might be some times when it's good to step out of your comfort zone. For example, we've done detailed, let's do super simple. I mean, you could say loads of these are super simple, but I think it's good to just approach it with that in mind. And I really love the simplicity of that little bleed and blend. See, I'm finding it hard to decide to make my mind up what I want to do. So the other option, of course, is bringing in other mediums, like, for example, fine line pens. So the last one I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to do two more. I'm going to do line and wash, but in two different ways. So the first one, I'm just literally going to put a scribble down and put a blob in the middle, and we're going to let that dry, and then I'm going to paint and draw all over the top of it. But then the other one, what size shall I go for? This one is, maybe you like to draw it in first and get your colour on afterwards. So down here we have line and wash because we've done the line, and now I'm going to do the wash. And you know, that doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're painting inside the lines, colouring in exactly, but you can see that the pen lines have sort of dictated what we're doing really. This is how I first got comfortable with colour. I think I was saying in my painting vlog last week that for a long time I really didn't like colour. I didn't like colouring in. I just loved drawing, and I didn't really have any sort of subtlety or nuance when it came to colour. So I always would whack it on in a bright, thoughtless way and really not understand how it could really enhance a piece rather than ruin it. And by just being able to sort of gently, slowly add colour like this, it really helped me understand that there was a whole world out there waiting for me that I hadn't discovered yet. So that's also quite useful if you feel like colour in general is a bit of a mystery to you. Why not have a go? Add a bit of that. Okay. The last one is a bit more reverse colouring, which if you don't know what reverse colouring is, I've actually got a book coming out called Draw Your Way, where you're given a blob of colour, and in this case, I mean, we're obviously based around a flower theme, but you don't necessarily have to sort of draw the exact thing, but it might sort of trigger a bit of inspiration. So as we are doing flower paintings, I will endeavour to create a flower because I think some people just kind of love drawing like this, and I do really enjoy it. Might even put that in as another leaf, you see. So that's where the fun of reverse colouring comes in, is you can sort of either follow the lines or not and see kind of where it takes you, but there's something really lovely and expressive about that piece. So there you have just a tiny sample of options of ways to find your style. You could keep going with this and try colouring pencils, watercolour pencils, pens, even more colourways, even more detail, even looser. But this is such a great exercise to get your creative juices flowing and build your creative confidence and become your own artist. I have so many people who paint my tutorials very sort of closely and accurately, and that's absolutely wonderful. But then people will say to them, "Oh, can I buy that off you? Can I do this and that for you?" And they come to me and they say, "Well, it doesn't really feel like my piece of work." And you're right, like the whole point of becoming an artist, and if you want to turn that into a side hustle or a job, is to be original. Find your style. That's not to say that, you know, we're all inspired by each other in terms of themes and things, but if you can sit down to paint knowing that you have really interrogated different styles and found something that you love to do, then your paintings will just benefit from it so much. They will sing and everyone will love them, and I can't wait to see them. So remember to share your paintings with me on Instagram, tag us at the Winton Paper Co. We'd love to see what you're up to, celebrate your creativity and share your work when we can. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!